So I want to talk about the advantages of segmentation, particularly a specific kind of segmentation, which is cluster analysis. And that is data-driven segmentation, meaning that you take your customer survey responses and you use the data to determine what underlying patterns exist to reveal different groups of people that exist within those surveys. These are your different customer profiles. But the key thing here with cluster analysis is you're using the data to determine those underlying clusters. So you might be wondering why you're looking at an image of a muddy river right now. It's because I want to use this as an analogy to think about the advantages of segmentation. The river represents your market. Now, finding your market is actually an important first step. So you need to acknowledge first that if you found the river, if you found and defined who your market is, you did a great job. You found the river. The next step, though, is to acknowledge that the river is muddy. It is a mixture of water and dirt and sand and mud and rocks all combined together, and it just looks brown and muddy. So you need a way to disentangle all those separate pieces that are in the river to get some clarity, and that's what segmentation does for you. Segmentation brings clarity to the muddy river. And again, I'm talking about a data-driven approach to segmentation. So technically, for the purpose of this short video, clustering brings clarity to the muddy river. So we start with our market profile. And I don't have time to go into how we decided who our market is, but you'll get a little bit of a picture of that as I go through these survey responses that we decided to focus on for this cluster analysis. So we're looking at 1,370 surveys here within our customer survey database. And as I said, this is a market profile, so what we're looking at is the entire market. We're looking to get a picture of the entire market. This is a broad overview before we go in and segment and get clarity of what is underneath that muddy river. So there are 4 patterns that I'll use in this example. The first about this market is that we know that they gather health information from the web. They research treatments online before asking their doctor. Now, these are 2 key behavioral factors about our market. And because of the way that we plan on reaching them and the nature of our product, these are very important. They inform and reinforce our strategy in terms of how we will reach them. So that's good to see. But we need to mix psychology into the mix. It can't just be about behavior. We want to understand their underlying psychology. And what we note in the market is that they report being more sociable, friendly, and likable than the average person that you see on the street. They also report being not afraid to appear unconventional, again, compared to the average person on the street. This is the broad overview of the market. And specifically, these are 4 different survey responses that we focused on. And we want to acknowledge that different people have different survey answers across questions. So what that means is that those who might report that they're likely to gather health information from the web might also be likely to report that they're sociable, but maybe those aren't the same people that are not afraid to appear unconventional. And I don't have time to really dive into why we chose these 4, but just keep in mind that it is related to the underlying psychology and the strategy that we're taking on with this particular project. So what that means is that you have to look at the pattern of survey responses across these 4 survey questions, across all of these surveys, and determine the underlying structure that exists, and those are your market segments. And by doing that, you can gain more powerful psychological insights. You need to recognize that your market profile is a broad depiction of the market. It's a muddy river, but there's underlying structure, and we have approaches to get at that underlying structure, which reveals the strong psychological insights. This is the first segment, or the first cluster that came out. This cluster represents 37% of the market. They are very highly on gathering information from the web. They score very highly on researching treatment before asking their doctor. They also generally report that they're sociable, friendly, and likable. And they also report that they're not afraid to appear unconventional. So what does this mean? For one, it means that these 4 key survey questions that we've identified, there's a group of people that tends to agree with all 4 of them. That's important to demonstrate. So now we can be convinced that the behavior that we're interested in is related to the psychology that we're interested in. We're aligning the 2, and that's going to make our messaging and our strategy more effective. And it's important to note that this represents 37% of the market. So what I'm saying there is that among the survey responses, this cluster, this profile, this segment is 37% of them. So what we're doing is we're honing in on the key segment that has all of the qualities that we're looking for. And again, we can leverage their entire collection of survey responses. There's over 60,000 survey responses here to get real insights into all the key additional information you might need, like what is their demographic skew, what's their gender skew, what's their media usage, what additional psychological insights can we derive from them. Here's the second segment. They represent about the same portion of the market, 38% of the market. Among these individuals of this profile, of this cluster, they gather health information from the web. They research treatment online before asking their doctor. But they're not any different in terms of their self-reported sociability, friendliness, likability compared to the random person that you find on the street. They're not any different in terms of reporting about being afraid to appear unconventional. In fact, compared to a random person on their street, they're slightly less likely to report being sociable, friendly, and likable, slightly less likely to report being not afraid to appear unconventional. What does this mean? It means that the data is telling us that over a third of the surveys, when we disentangle what the market looks like, over a third of the surveys don't correspond to the psychology that we imagined. They got the behavior, but we're not seeing the underlying psychology that we anticipated. This group is mixing in with the other group that I showed earlier that does demonstrate these four qualities. This group, which represents 37% of survey responses, focusing on this group, this profile, is going to reveal strong behavioral and psychological insights that can inform our marketing. So the idea is that, when you look at your overall market and you, for example, just determine that your market has these four qualities, when you dive in, you find that not every group within the market has all these four qualities that you anticipated. You actually have this one here that is muddying the river. It's making it more difficult to detect the underlying psychological and behavioral patterns. And that is why clustering brings clarity to the muddy market. It helps us hone in on the most relevant and interesting psychological insights and make sure they align with the behavior that we anticipate. Thanks for checking out this video. We post regularly about how we apply psychology to marketing. You can learn more about us in the description below. Let us know if you have any questions in the comments below. And be sure to subscribe and hit the bell button if you want to keep in tune on our posts. We post a lot more on our website at intermarkgroup.com. Thanks for checking this out.